Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Sarirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarotam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankachakrashidharinam Sahasrashirsham Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Yogi Ishwaraya Arpanamastu. Anyadasana. Om Tat Sat. And once again, a very warm welcome to all that have joined on board to join me on this journey where we discover the wonderful, magnificent works of the great Maharishi Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So today is an introduction or background to who is Patanjali and what is Yoga Sutras and what it does for all of us. And then the next 14 weeks, every week I will be looking at 14 sutras. Every week we will look at 14 sutras and we will examine, explore, discuss what that sutra means. One, in terms of yoga, and two, in terms of, developing your own depth or accesses to spirituality. And thirdly, how you can use one to develop the other, right? And then in the last week, week 16, we will, as usual, in the usual format, we will review, consolidate, and, you will have an opportunity to raise questions if you've been following me for 16 weeks. So it requires a continuous course like this, requires a commitment on your part, because you can't do 2 weeks, miss 1 week, come back for the 4th week, because then you lose the flow, right? So if you know you want to be on board and you want to get the maximum knowledge, you want to get the maximum practical input into what is yoga and what are all the yoga sutras, then I would say make sure you plan your week accordingly so that this time every Sunday for the next 16 weeks, including today, you have no other commitment. Obviously, choice is yours. So what are we going to be looking at each week when we look at the 14 verses? I mean, in total, there are 196 verses, sutras, short sayings. So what each sutra means, that's something we will look at. What we can receive in terms of spiritual learning, right, that we will look at. And more importantly, what can we take from this spiritual learning and apply it to our own life so that we can enjoy and witness personal transformation from one level of consciousness to another level of consciousness. It's simple as that. Remember, the aim is to inculcate an understanding of this magnificent work of Patanjali Rishi and attempt to live the values that is being postulated through those verses on a week-by-week basis, okay? So as and when, there is a need, I may give you some practical things to do. But the sessions is not me teaching you yoga. Yoga cannot be taught online. You have to have the guru set in front of you, right? So when all things being well, when, the need arises, we can think about, physical sessions in presence. But for the moment, I am just talking about the Yoga Sutras, which is, all the verses. So for example, today I'm giving you a background to them. Next week, I'll start from 1 to 14. And then week 3, 15 to 28, and then 29 to 42, like that. Every week, 14 verses. So in 14 weeks, we would have covered 196 sutras. Each of the sutras that Maharishi Patanjali has given to us. It's a great gift, right? It's a great gift. So the prayer that I recited in the beginning, Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham, Malam Sarirasya Chavaidyakena, Yopa Karotham Pravararam Muninam, Patanjalim Pranjali Pranatosmi, Mabahu Purushakaram, Chankachakra Sahastra Shirasam Shvetam, Pranamami Patanjalim. Basically it means, let us bow to the noblest and greatest of sages, Sri Patanjali, who has given us the great science of yoga for serenity and sanctity of the mind. He also gave us grammar, Panini, for clarity and purity of speech. And he also gave us medicine or Ayurveda for the perfection of health. So he is an incarnation of Adishesha. Right? Sahasra Shirasham Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim. Upper body is human form. His body below the navel is that of a snake. Right? Because, he is Ananta, he is Adishesha, right? In one, I'll tell you the story afterwards, where he was given this gift by Lord Vishnu to go down to Bhuloka and do what he has done. Okay? So one who is always holding Mahavishnu was given a gift by Vishnu that he comes down, right, and gives mankind this great gift of yoga, of the science of yoga, science of grammar, and perfection of purity of speech, and of course Ayurveda, right? And if you remember, I have spoken about this before during the churning of the ocean of milk. I've spoken about it in the Upanishad. I also spoke about it in the Puranas, right? The churning of the ocean of milk, or Samudramadan. Yeah? The first thing that came out was the Halhala poison. And the second thing that came out was Ayurveda, through the goddess Dhanvantari. So that was actually given by great Patanjali. Now, so the Yoga Sutras is a text containing 196 sutras. Sutras are short teachings or short sayings. It is like a guidebook for anyone, right? Not specifically yoga students, for any student who is seeking enlightenment and final liberation. Of course, yoga is one of the means, as you know, dhyana yoga, right? 4 types of yogas: karma yoga, dhyana yoga, raja yoga, and of course, bhakti yoga, right? So this yoga is falling within the science of raja yoga. Now, the Yoga Sutras are only valuable to you if you want to educate yourself on the importance of self-discovery. And of course, in that journey of discovering yourself, the importance of yoga and the place of yogis in this universe. Yeah. So the Yoga Sutras are basically classified into 4 categories, or 4 books, if you like, 4 kantas, if you like, right? And each kanta has got its own aims or objectives or goals. So the 4 books are Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, Vibhuti Pada, and Kaivalya Pada. So Samadhi Pada has got 51 sutras. Sadhana Pada has got 55 sutras. Vibhuti Pada, the biggest of them all, has got 56 sutras, and Kaivalya Pada has got 34 sutras. So when you add all these 4, 51, 55, 56, and 34, it gives you 196. So in total, there are 196 sutras divided into 4 books called Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, Vibhuti Pada, and Kaivalya Pada. Samadhi Pada defines what yoga is and how it connects to enlightenment. It's simple. In 51 sutras, that's all it does. Nothing else. Sadhana pada then takes you to the second stage. These are stages. So first you must finish samadhi pada. That means a total understanding and practical, practical initiation into these 51 sutras. Then you go to the second stage, which is sadhana pada, the connection between the student and the teacher or the master or the acharya or the guru, right? And the guru here is not the physical person. The guru here is your higher self. That is your guru. So the connection between you, the external self, and you, the internal self. Then Vibhudipada, this has got 55 sutras. Then Vibhudipada is the dedication part to the practice and self-discipline. This 56, that is why it's the largest book in Yoga Sutras. And of course, once you've mastered the third stage, which is Vibhudipada, then you go to the fourth stage, which is Kaivalyapada, which is telling you this is the way to liberation. You get freedom from suffering, right? So it's basically a collection of 4 books written by the great Patanjali, right? To guide anyone who reads through the trials and tribulations involved in the self-discovery of oneself through the science of yoga. Okay, very clearly stated there. So the goal is to reconnect. See, yoga means 3 parts, right? Mind, body, and soul. And it is only in that series of connection, mind, body, and then only soul. So let's look at this, right? What does it mean, mind, body, and soul? Everybody knows yoga is the union of mind, body, and soul. Okay, so give me the breakdown, right? You cannot do yoga if you first don't stabilize your mind and balance your mind. Because only with a stable and balanced mind can you control the body. The mind is not in control, the body cannot be controlled. Hence, mind, body. When you control the mind and the body, you can then go inside and connect with your soul. That is yoga. Mind, body, and soul. Okay? And that is why the goal of these Yoga Sutras is to reconnect the mind and soul back to the physical body through self-reflection, through mantra, through yantra, through tantra, and through the channeling of energy through your chakras, spiritual practices, in other words. That is why even before I did the Puranas, I did the 3 sessions on yantra, mantra, tantra. I did 1 session on chakras, and I did 1 session on panchakoshas. All this is relevant what we are doing for the next 16 weeks. Okay. Now, I must make one thing very clear, right? That is, the Yoga Sutras is not an answer. It is more of a guide, right? So they have a meaning, but it is for the reader to decipher that and to define the extent, depth, and scope of that meaning to his or her own life. It is not one size fits all. What you get from it may be completely different from what another person gets from it, but it is a generic guideline, right? So you will have your own takeaways from the lessons and teachings, as you will see as I go through each sutras. What you get from it may be something totally different from others. That is fine. Don't worry about that. But one thing cuts through whatever you take away from these sessions, right? That is the reconnection of yourself with your true self. The moment you connect your external self, or the external body, the person that you are, to the internal divine self that you really are, at that point you are liberated. You get mukti. And of course, at that point, all sufferings will cease because you have disconnected yourself from the world by connecting yourself to the internal world. And that is the beauty and final aim of yoga. It's complete. This is what we call samadhi, right? Samadhi. So what are sutras? Sutras, like I said, they are small teachings. They summarize, large messages. And, the sutras come to you, come to me, come to us after hundreds and hundreds of years of oral instruction from a guru teacher, acharya, right? To keep something of great importance short, succinct, and precise, so that memory can capture that and memorization can happen as a result, right? So you don't have to remember each of the sutras, but you have to remember, what they mean. So you can use them in your own lives. And of course, when your own life is enriched, you should enrich the lives of others as well. Right? That's the underlying message, right? All students in a class of 40, 50, not everybody will get the same result, but everybody is given the same lesson, right? So basically, the teachings, right, for the existence of yoga, why does yoga exist? And secondly, what are its benefits? The development of yoga, from time, how it has grown, and how it has been completely westernized, certain arms or certain pathways of yoga, right? The very word yoga is a Sanskrit word. So it tells you clearly where it has come from, where its source is. And then, of course, the liberation element, right? So much of, what's the word I'm looking for? So much of conversion has been done to the true meaning of yoga that now the liberation element is no longer present. It is just done for good health, right? Then you're only focusing on the physical external self, isn't it? Well, the true aim, according to Patanjali, is use these yoga, signs of yoga, to connect the external self with the internal self and liberate yourselves. That was completely gone now. If you look at all the Western philosophies as far as yoga is concerned, or the teaching of yoga is concerned, right? So you need to be exercising some care, some caution when you are on different websites looking at different types of yoga, right? Most of these are commercial. So, as long as you pay them their money, they will give you some lesson, but they're not interested in your true development of your spiritual energies. So you need to be careful of that. So Patanjali, who is Patanjali, right? Like I said, the mythology behind Patanjali is that he is a reincarnation of Adishesha, or Ananta, as he is known, the multi-headed, serpent on which Vishnu lies upon all the time, right? And of course, when he sleeps between creations, Adishesha is always awake, looking at. So once when he was awake, Adishesha said, I would like to go down to earth and teach mankind something so that they can connect to their real self and liberate themselves from the cycle of birth and death. So Vishnu said Tatatsu, and of course he became, Patanjali after that. Now, when did Patanjali live, or how long ago was he alive, and all of that? Now, there's historical, discrepancies here. And really and truly, as I always say, of what use is the exact date of Patanjali's existence relevant to us? We are more interested in what he has left behind and how we can use that to develop our own self. Knowing his exact date of birth does nothing to you, me, or anyone else for that matter. But the books of history, references and research shows that he existed between the 2nd and the 4th century BCE. I'm talking about BCE, right? But it's a large gap in different, sources of reference. I'm talking about primary sources of reference, not different internet sites, right? Still, what he has left has been crystallized in this form of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Now, of course, how the word yoga came itself is sometimes of concern to many people, right? Because they are attributing it to Patanjali, they are attributing it to so many things. But if you trace back the word yoga, it first came in the Rig Veda. And of course, as you know, the Rig Veda is a collection of hymns, which all the Vedic hymns, and all the priests use it in their pujas and the temples and all of that. So the word yoga has its presence in the ancient Rig Veda. And of course, the Vedas are divided into four, right? Brahmanas, the Samhitas, the what do you call the Aranyakas, and of course the Upanishads. And they also come in different parts, in different ways, in different times. So there is no need to worry. We have a solid source of information through the Vedas that yoga is a science that was already defined in the Vedas and taken and expanded and propounded and postulated upon by the great Maharishi Patanjali, right? Then, of course, different people have come and taken and given a twist to it. And even Krishna has referred to yoga, science of yoga in Bhagavad Gita. There is references in the Upanishads, and I've spoken about this when I did the 15 weeks of Upanishads. And again, in the Upanishads and in Bhagavad Gita, they relate the signs of yoga to liberation or self-action. Especially in the Gita, it talks about the four, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and raja yoga. So it's all connected. It's all connected. Right? So how old, if you ask how old are the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, I would say, as where are we now? 2022. So, before 2000 years ago, right? It was already there in existence. But what happened in the last, maybe in the first, in the 11th or the 12th century, it sort of went missing for a while. People lost interest in it and nobody was talking about it. For almost 700 years, it was lying in absence. And then, others have come, rediscovered the work. The work was already there. So it was not a discovery by a new person, right? Patanjali's work was there, but for some reason it was subdued, suppressed, or whatever the case may be, right? Looking at, the history and the political accessions of India itself, right? So for 700 years, it was completely suppressed. Then, of course, other rishis and Swamijis came and they started to focus on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras again. And of course, it became alive again in the 20th century and certainly in the 21st century. It's an area of growing popularity every day. And now, it's available to the general public. You must understand one thing. In the early days, people had to go to a guru, sit there for weeks, months, maybe years to learn things that included yoga. Today, everything is so openly available, open access. Public can just log on to one site and see how yoga is done. That does nothing for you. There must be a specific instruction, right? So the guru will say, today just breathe from one nostril, in and out from one nostril, for example. Next day, you breathe from the other nostril, in and out. If you really look into the science of yoga, one nostril is active for 1 hour, only one nostril. And then the other nostril becomes active for another. So each nostril has a 12-hour, right, facility, if you like. We don't realize that because, the way in which we have been breathing is that. So you need an instructor or a guru or acharya if you really want to go into the practical aspects of yoga and develop it in that sense, right? But what we are looking at is the knowledge or the concept of the 196 Yoga Sutras given to us by the great Maharishi Patanjali. So now what I'll do is I'll talk to you about each of the books. Right? Remember there are 4 books: Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, Vibhuti Pada, and Kaivalya Pada, right? So let's talk about Samadhi Pada first. I told you 51 sutras it has. Of 196, 51 sutras have belong to Samadhi Pada, the first chapter, if you like, right? So 4 chapters or 4 books, It's all about what yoga is and how it is connected to enlightenment, mukti, mukti, or moksha, if you like. Not only does it help to define the goal of enlightenment, right? Apart from explaining what yoga is, it tells you the means of getting from one stage to the other stage. Right? It's a physical means of detaching the physical form from the senses or from the ego through two things. One is called vairagya, the other is called abhyasa. Vairagya means, a strong sense of detachment through regulated or repeated practice, abhyasa. So you can, through abhyasa and vairagya, attain liberation. But what must do first? The mind. Mind, body, spirit. Remember that, right? Mind, body, spirit. So work on your mind first. Mind. Mind, I started about it when I did Bhajagovindam back in 2020. So everything is about the mind, right? Now, only when the mind is strong, yat mano tat manushyaha, like that, yat chitta tato deham, as the thoughts of the body. Only if your mind is strong can the body overcome the physicality of the sense of pain. Sense of pain can be controlled and discontinued if your mind is still. You can even control pain. That is the power of a still mind, right? But if your mind is not still, not calm, not balanced, then even a mosquito sting can give you greatest of pain, right? Mind, body, spirit. Don't go to spirit. First, focus on the mind, right? These books tell you how to do it. Okay. Now, it offers a lot of solutions, right? How you dissolve the external self and detach it from the body. The body is the main culprit, right? The body will tell the man, I'm thirsty, go and find me a drink. I'm hungry, find me food. I want to do this, find me this. I want to do that, find me this. Then the mind will go start hunting, and then it goes in the right way, it goes in the wrong way, it goes here, it goes there, it goes all over the place. And you can't find it, you're stressed. You're stressed, the body becomes equally stressed. Mental stress, physical stress. Mental still, body still. Mental calm, body calm. Mental balance, body is balanced. Very simple, right? That's why mind first, then body, then spirit, right? So why you want to control your mind? Why you want to steal the mind? Because otherwise there is this bad guy who's in you, in your mind, called ego. Ego must go, right? He must go first. Ego must go first. Then you are on the right path of gaining liberation. As long as ego is there, you will always feel mental pain and suffering, right? Ego must go if you want to get into yoga. So that's basically the 51 Sutras talk about what I've just told you. The second book or the second chapter is called Sadhana Pada. Sadhana means actions, right? Or sankalpa or undertakings on your part. This chapter highlights the importance of the connection between the student, right, and the yogi within you, the divine or higher self. So you are the student and the master is within you, right? And sometimes you need an intermediary, right, called the teacher or the guru or the acharya, who can show you the path or show you the connection between how the external self can connect with the internal self, right? So it focuses on getting away from the external self that is temporary to getting into the true self, which is permanent, right? Remember, I've spoken about this before. When the body dies, the body is of no use, but the soul continues its journey. So if it is ripe enough, if its karmic actions have been good and there are no more karmic debts, then it merges. But otherwise, it will, in order to relive its karmic consequences, it will go to another body and it will go through the trials and tribulations of what is to come to it, right? So this book can easily be said to be the unit of spiritual practice. Unit of spiritual practice. Now, this sadhana pada is very important. When I've spoken to you before about Ashtanga yoga, Ashta Anga yoga. Ashta means 8, Anga means parts or sections. Anga is another word in Sanskrit for body. It's got nothing to do with body parts, right? Many people confuse this. Ashtanga means 8 parts of the body. No, nothing doing. Ashtanga yoga means there are 8 sections in this science of yoga that you, if you want to get into yoga or the practice of yoga, you have to master. Okay. So the 8 limbs are introduced here in this book called Sadhana Pada. Very aptly too, sadhana means undertakings of what you're supposed to do, isn't it? So of course the 8 limbs are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. 8 books. So when you say yamas, what do you mean? Yama is the first stage where you have to control and master ethical values or ethical standards. Basically, there are 5, right? One is, of course, ahimsa, not to harm anything, not in a physical sense, right? Ahimsa means ahimsa in the mind, ahimsa in the words, and ahimsa in the actions. That is the first thing you have to do as yama. The second thing is satya, or truthfulness, always thinking in truth, speaking in truth, and acting in truth. Third is asteya. Asteya means stealing. That means you cannot be stealing anything, not even thoughts, words, or other people's actions or other people's possessions. Number 3. So ahimsa, satya, asteya. Then, of course, moderation of the senses, brahmacharya, right? Moderation of the senses and control of senses. And of course, aparigraha. Aparigraha means non-possessiveness. These 5 things you must master and control in the yama stage. This is just yama, right? Once you have got these 5, then you can go to the next stage called niyama, which is talking about self-discipline. So here is talking about, again, 5 things in specific order of it. Self-purification or shaucha, right? Contentment, santosha. Recently, in one of my reflections, I covered santosha. Then self-discipline is called tapas. Self-study, swadhyaya. And self-surrender. Again, I've done this in the reflections. Ishvara pranidhana. These are 5 things that come under niyama. So yama is the ethical standards and moral standards. Niyama is the self-discipline. If you don't get yamas in order, you cannot go to niyamas. Right? So yamas are ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. Right? That is non-harming, non-violence, truthfulness, satya, asteya, non-stealing, brahmacharya, moderation, control of senses, and of course 5 is non-possessiveness, aparigraha. Then come niyama, again 5 things: self-purification, shaucha, contentment, santosha, self-discipline, tapasya, self-study, swadhyaya, and 5, self-surrender, ishvara pranidhana. When you have mastered both yama and niyama, the first 2 stages or sections of Ashtanga yoga, then you go to the 3rd stage. This is where all the physical status poses come. Padmasana, Bhadrasana, all these poses come in this 3rd section. If you haven't got yama and niyama in order, don't go to the 3rd section. It's not going to do you any good, even though you become very good with the poses. Yama is not there, niyama is not there, that's it. You will never grow or develop beyond asana. Because if yama and niyama is not there, you are just doing asana, then your pranayama, your breathing technique will be wrong. Because you're so entrenched in the world, you're so living in the world, how can you detach? Mind is still, mind is still completely involved in the world. So asanas is all the physical poses, right? As and when I think it is very easy for you to do, I'll give you 1 or 2 things for you to practice, right? That towards the end. Then, of course, the 4th stage, so yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, is regulation of breathing, right? The formal practice of controlling the breath, which is prana, and vitality of life force. That's what pranayama is all about. And of course, breathing in through one nostril, exhaling through the other nostril. So, that thou art, that I am Brahman. Every breath should tell you that, right? I think you breathe something like 24,600 times in a day, right? But how many times do you realize that? It's become so taken for granted that you don't even hear your own breathing. You got to hear your own breathing. That is meditation. When you can hear. Like that. Breathing in, breathing out, right? And I've spoken about this in one of the Purana sessions. That is the 4 stages. The primary 4 stages then would take you to the secondary 4 stages, which is a higher level of sense control and what you can get in terms of, doing that properly. So then we come to pratyahara. Pratyahara means withdrawal of senses. The goal is to clear the mind of all the cobwebs and leave the body in such a relaxed position that divine intervention is very clearly accessed. You must do pratyahara first before you go to stage number 6, which is dharana. Dharana means concentration. The act of holding, the act of bearing, the act of wearing, the act of supporting, the act of maintaining, the act of retaining, the act of keeping back. That which can stop you from going deeper and deeper and deeper. That is dharana. Then only comes dhyana, my dear brothers and sisters. Then only comes dhyana, right? What is amazingly shocking is that everybody will go and sit somewhere and say, I'm going to do dhyana. Stop fooling yourselves. Stop fooling yourselves, because dhyana is the 7th stage. It is a stage before samadhi. So if someone tells me they are doing dhyana, I will take it as though they have mastered yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana. 6 stages they have mastered, and I will accept them greatly as a guru. Because I am still fighting with those things. So anyone who says, every week I do dhyana, it's very good. When are you going to go into samadhi? Right? Dhyana is the actual act of meditation. It's a cliche. Because when you hear the word meditation, straight away you think of the 7th stage, which is dhyana. It's incredibly important, right? It's incredibly important. I cannot understate the importance. Before dhyana, there exists 6 stages, which the aspirant must learn to master. Then only dhyana. You cannot excel in dhyana if you do not control your yamas, if you have no ethical values or moral values, or your niyamas, if you don't have any discipline, self-discipline. Or you cannot sit still, asana, padmasana. When you do dhyana, you have to sit in a padmasana. That means both your feet has to be on each other's thighs, on the other thigh. Right? That is a law. You cannot put both feet on the ground and think you're doing dhyana. No, Padmasana is the pose by which you are placing yourself in a lotus position that will kickstart all the chakras. Right? So that is why all the stages are there. First, control your moral, ethical values. Then control your self-discipline. Then you start learning some poses. You don't have to know all the poses. Just a few is enough. Right? You just learn the Surya Namaskar. Right? Is enough. 12 poses. Do it every day. Asana, then pranayama, breathing. Meditation is all about controlled or regulated breathing. That is dhyana. Then pratyahara, withdrawal of senses. Now you ask yourself, you do this self-audit, right? How many times when you are sitting and in a so-called thing you call dhyana or meditation, does your mind wander to, what is going to happen in the office tomorrow, what is happening in the house, what is happening in the weekend, I have to send my car for service, because you still haven't withdrawn. Pratyahara is not there. There's no withdrawal of senses. What did I say to you? The goal is to clear the mind of all thoughts, all cobwebs, and leave the body in such a state of stillness, such a state of relaxed position that divine intervention can then be accessed. Same exactly what I said a few minutes back. Then dharana, then only you can concentrate when the senses are no longer an impediment. Dharana is there, concentration. From dharana, you catapult into dhyana, going into space. In that space, you are absorbed completely. That is samadhi, samadhi. You become one with the beginning. Samadhi. Your focus, where you are absorbed in the object of focus, which is complete nothingness. Purnamatha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamathaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. That is samadhi. Right? When you have mastered all these Ashtanga yogas in the sadhana pada, then only you graduate into the third stage, which is Vibhuti pada. Vibhuti pada, the third chapter of Patanjali's great Yoga Sutras. 55 sutras. 55, 56. The biggest book. Right? This is where it connects the idea or power of enlightenment with manifestation. It highlights the power of the mind to concentrate to the point of supernatural levels. Once again, the Vibhuti Pada highlights the mind's ability and capacity to concentrate to the point of almost supernatural levels. This is what we call siddhi. Siddhi. So yoga gives you siddhic powers. Now you can see. Right? You can even see the aura if you are at a certain level of developed, we call yogic science. Right? The level of power can also be reached once you have mastered the Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga. That is the way. A clear path has been given to you now. So you know what to do. Right? So the main focus of this book, Vibhuti Pada, is for the student, the aspirant, to regulate himself and dedicate himself fully towards the deeper progression of self-discovery and self-knowledge. You and only you can empower your mind to manifest whatever you want in life. Let me repeat that. You and only you can manifest the power, right, to attract whatever you want in your life. So if you're having difficulties, then I will say to you, you are attracting it. Turn it around. Right? As the mind, so the man, I said, Yato mano tat manushyaha. Yato manushya tat karmaha. So this Vibhuti Pada polishes the last 3 stages, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi from the sadhana pada. It polishes the last 3, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, so that you can go to the next stage, the final stage, kaivalya pada, where the siddhis that you have developed and you have begotten can then be developed to one that is universal and one that has merged with that universe. That is what Kaivalya Pada is, the 4th book, the final chapter. Right? This is complete isolation now. It means completely isolating yourself from every single thing that is around you, to every single thing in the universe. Right? The complete separation of the individual with their own self that is connected to relationships, attractions, egoism, aversion, cycle of birth and death. This is completely isolating yourself. Right? And this is Kevalin, right? When you reach this stage, you are called a Kevalin, yogi, a yogi, basically. The final liberation through continuous practice, right? So Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, what's the third book? Samadhi, Sadhana, Vibhuti Pada, and then finally Kaivalya Pada, right? Second stage is very important, second chapter of Sadhana Pada, because that's where the Ashtanga Yoga comes in. And Sadhana polishes the last three of the Ashtanga Yoga, which is Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, so that you can go into the Kaivalya Pada, right? Now, the more you do this, you will see your character changing. And there are four things that you will actually see, feel, experience. So when you see, feel, and experience, everybody around you will also see, feel, and experience. What are the four things? The four things is, first, you become more friendly. Your attitude to being friendly completely changes. You will have something called absence of envy. You know what is envy, right? You should be no envy towards anyone. And you are just joyful. First characteristic. Second characteristic, as you go more into the science of yoga, is you become more compassionate. You become more compassionate. People say, hey, how come? Yeah, you changed a lot. Thirdly, you become more virtuous, You encourage virtues in others because your ego is being taken little by little by little by little by little by little. And you encourage others to do similar things like you're doing. And finally, you developed a characteristics or the capacity to resist the impure. So you're becoming pure. By only resisting the impure, can you become more pure and pure and pure and pure. Your journey. Other people may still be impure, but your ability to resist is what is important. You cannot be sucked into it. You have to resist. That can only be done by the first two things I said, Vairagya and Abhyasa, and dedication and self-discipline. Once you've learned this, and you go more and more and more into it, and Kevala, Kaivalya Pada teaches you all this. This is the fourth stage, where you as a person are changing externally so that the internal connection becomes more facilitative. Okay. And also, if you look at the laws of yoga, right? The yoga science of yoga, there are 7 spiritual laws that relate to yoga. So yoga focuses on 7 spiritual laws that is taught to all students, not just yoga students, right? And this is what Patanjali says. So what are the 7 spiritual laws of yoga? The first is called the law of pure potentiality. Potential, in essence, your true self has unbound potential for creativity and for becoming eternal. So the science of yoga is based on this principle or understanding of pure potential. Hence, it's called law of pure potentiality. The second is called, law of giving and receiving. See, the universe has an endless energy source that is always flowing, whether it's flowing into something or it's flowing out of something. This is one continuous universal energy, right? And you are part of this. You and I are both part of this. So there is a balance. If the universe is involved in the task of giving and receiving and giving and receiving, you as a part of it should also follow this virtue of giving and receiving. You cannot just give. Then the balance is not there. You're imbalanced. Third is law of karma. As I said, karma is not just actions. Karma is thoughts, karma is words, karma is actions. Right? And with His grace, I hope by the end of the year, my book on the law of karma is published. I will let you all know if it is. Right? Law of karma. Everything is cause and effect. Right? What you think good, the effect good comes back to you. If you think bad, it also comes back to you. You may not intend to do harm, but just the thought is enough. You accrue, you attract. It's an accrual basis. right? In accounting terms, accrual, The law of karma is that third law. A fourth one is law of least effort. Law of least effort means, where you are set, you can latch into. The law of focus on the idea of resistance. The more you develop resistance towards negativity, the easier it becomes for you to go in. So that's why the law of yoga is based on the spiritual laws of least effort. If you just give love and kindness and compassion, then the energy from the universe will come to you easily, because you are helping the universe to maintain that balance. So universe will help you, right? If you're fighting and resisting the universe, then you won't get the help from the universe. Simple. The fifth law is spiritual law, is called the law of intention and desire, right? Sankalpa, always in a quiet state of mind, making your intentions and desires clear to the universe without malice. Without malice, there can't be any malice of forethought, right? The universe will grant you an infinite power to organize and manifest. So basically what you're doing is, through your mind, you're speaking into universal existence. Through your mind, you're speaking into universal existence. The sixth spiritual law of yoga is called the law of detachment. Law of detachment. Only when you do all of this, you can slowly detach, right? But to be able to detach, you must first attach. If there's no attachment, there can't be detachment, isn't it? So you must know how, when, and why you have to detach, right? You have to detach if you want to go into yogic science, if you want to become a yogi, if you want to become a Kevalin, right? And finally, the seventh law is the universal law of dharma, purpose in life. 4 ashramas, right? The 4 purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? At each stage of the 4 ashramas, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanapratishtha, and of course sannyasa, right? Characteristics must be the same. You cannot change, right? From a character perspective, we cannot change. That's the law of dharma, good conduct. But when you do that, when you are observing and when you know the 7 laws, it will keep you grounded. When you are grounded and then you apply the Yoga Sutras, you move very fast, very quickly you develop. And this is the alignment. So the Panchabhutas or the Panchakoshas acts and reacts and responds to you, your mind, right? So it is entirely up to you, right? What you want to gain from all this, how you want to progress from a student to become a master, your own master, right? It's entirely up to you. And that is what this session is all about, giving you the background into what Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is all about. So next week, I'm going to do the first 14 sutras, number 1 to number 14. And Brother Ganesh will send you the materials for you to read and then reflect. Obviously, there's an exercise for you to do. And then hopefully you are on this journey with me, till the end. Nyada sharanam nasti tumeva sharanam mamaha tasmat karunyabhavena raksha yogishvaraha. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sai Ram, and thank you for joining me this session.